Welcome to the January the 14th St. Tammany Parish Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Mr. Dennis Sharp to give the invocation. And Pledge of Allegiance will be followed by with Ms. Blanchard, Michelle Blanchard.
Let's bow our heads. Our divine and loving Holy Father, we come before you this evening to ask your blessings on our proceedings here and blessings on everyone in attendance. Bless all those in need. Give us the wisdom to know the right thing to do, the strength to follow through with it. And we'll praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda tonight is a resolution to appoint a chairman of the Parish Council for the calendar year 2016, right after Ms. Ford calls the roll.
Mr. Dean? Are you here? Okay. Mr. Sharp? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Lorino? Mr. Toledano? Here. Mr. Groby? Here. Mr. Tanner?
Here.
Mr. Canulet? Here. Mr. Belisario? Here. Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stefanczyk? Here. Mr. Bender? Here. Ms. Blanchard? Present. Mr. Smith? Here. You have a quorum.
All right. We have a quorum, and the first item on the agenda is a resolution to appoint a chairman of the Parish Council for the calendar year 2016. Do I have a nomination for that?
Mr. Chairman, I will nominate.
Before we do that, we need to move to adopt the resolution.
We'll move.
Okay. I move to adopt the resolution.
Adopt the resolution for what?
Motion's been seconded, made and seconded to adopt the resolution. Go ahead with your nomination.
I don't know
Mr.
if I
Bender.
want to. No, I'll make a motion to nominate Councilman Marty Dean for chairman in 2016.
Motion made and seconded. Are there other nominations? Move to close. Motion's been made to close. Any objection? Unless I hear objections, we will declare Mr. Dean the chairman by acclamation. Any objection? Hearing none. Mr. Dean, congratulations. No, you don't. You did.
Before I go any further, let me just talk about Mr. Tanner down there. In a world of politically correctness, when you have somebody like Richard Tanner kind of enter into your life, it kind of shakes things up and lets you know I really enjoyed his candor. He is certainly tells you where he is. He cuts through the chase, and he's very honest. And I think he was the type of leader we needed this past year. So let me, if you all would join me, we could give him some applause. Thank you. Also, before we go any further, let me introduce, as you know, this is our first council meeting for this newly elected group. I want to introduce our three newly elected ones. I'll start off with Ms. Michelle Blanchard. She was actually appointed first, but then she was recently newly elected down in District 13. Mr. Michael Lorino took District 4. Reed Falconer was in that district prior to that. He's newly elected. Then Mr. Reichert Toledano took District 5, where Mr. Gould was. So we really welcome them. We'll see. They have little happy faces on them on right now. We'll see where they are in a year or so. But anyway, welcome. I'm really excited about all this. Okay, next item we have coming up is a resolution to appoint a vice chairman of the Parish Council for calendar year 2016. We have a motion by Mr. Tanner, second. Mr. Thompson? All right, so do I have a nomination for vice chairman?
Mr. Chairman, it's my privilege to
Hit your light, Mr. Lorino.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, it's my privilege to nominate the Honorable Steve Stefanski for Vice Chair 2016.
All right, we have a nomination for Mr. Stefanski. Do I have a second? Okay, Ms. Blanchard. I'll do the, before I go any further, are any other nominations? Okay, I'll do this. Okay, nominations are closed. I'll do the same thing as Mr. Tanner did. If I hear no objections, then we will declare it a unanimous vote. Any objections? How long should I wait? No, I'm teasing. Okay, no objections, so congratulations, Mr. Stefanski. Continuing on thank you. Before we go to the next few items, we do need to do appoint a parliamentarian. Mr. Stefanski has done a very capable job over the years. However, he's vice chairman, so now we need to get another one. I kind of sprung it on Mr. Sharp. Mr. Sharp, would you do the honors as parliamentarian? That's the second time he's heard about that. Okay. So do I have, okay, we have a motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Okay. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sharp. It truly is. I literally did talk to him about the first time 30 minutes ago. So, okay, here we go. Let's talk about special items. I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Council staff appointments. Number 1, resolution CSC 4477, resolution reaffirming the appointment of Don Henderson as Parish Council Administrator for the 2016 through 2019 council term of office. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Groby. Mr. Okay, Smith, you second? Okay. Okay. Motion to close. Okay, I don't even know if we need that. All right. Let's vote with your lights.
I was giving him instructions.
Would you like to vote? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, next item, resolution 4478, resolution reaffirming the appointment of Ms. Teresa Ford as Parish Clerk of Council for the 2016 through 2019 council term of office. I have a motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. Groby. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, good. I'm glad we did that, else she would have walked and we would have been a mess. Okay, presentations. Our first presentation is presentation of proclamation to St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month. Ms. Brister.
Good evening, councilmen, and welcome to our new two councilmen and councilwoman. Congratulations. I know you're going to enjoy it. So as we have done in the past, we honor each month an employee of the month. And this month, it's Emmett Funchess. Emmett has been an employee of St. Tammany Parish Government, Department of Finance, Data Management since February 2014. And whereas Emmett has an exceptional willingness and desire to help and consistently go out of his way to assist his fellow coworkers, I want to repeat that. Emmett consistently goes out of his way to help his coworkers find a solution to their issues and problems. And whereas Emmett has made a tremendous impact in the way we capture and utilize data by implementing process improvements and by creating specific databases to track and monitor parish projects. And whereas Emmett has the ability to utilize in-house resources to keep a project moving forward. And whereas Emmett is an overall outstanding employee and performs his duties in an exemplary manner. So now, therefore, I, Patricia Brister, President of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work and accomplishments of Emmett Funchess, an Employee of the Month, January 2016, and I encourage all employees of St. Tammany Parish to thank him for his contributions and commitment to our parish. And I have signed it and witnessed. So, Emmett, thank you very much for what you do. Thank you, Emmett. Do you need to say anything?
Oh, I'm good. Just thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Our next presentation is a presentation by Shelley Marengo regarding the Buddy Bench program. Mr. Belisario, can't wait to hear what this is about.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. This is different. Normally, when we do a certificate, we're talking about a person's achievements. And we had to start writing it, we were talking about an object, the Buddy Bench. So we rewrote it. So it's a little different than the certificates we normally have. I just want to read it to you all, and I'm going to ask Shelley Marengo to give a little, just a brief description of things she's done and people who assisted her on this. The certificate of recognition. Oftentimes, children find themselves alone on the playground or left out of social activities. Buddy Bench is a simple idea to eliminate loneliness and foster friendships on the playground, spreading the message of inclusion and kindness. Whereas the Buddy Bench was an idea originated by a second-grade student in Pennsylvania who urged his principal to place a bench on the playground to serve as a designated area for a child needing companionship, to sit so other children would approach them and invite them to play. Whereas Shelley Marengo, an advocate for her special needs son, was instrumental in bringing the Buddy Bench concept to the schools within St. Tammany Parish public school system. And whereas there is at least one Buddy Bench at each elementary and middle school in the St. Tammany Parish public school system, that would not exist without the help of the Exchange Club of West St. Tammany. And whereas the Buddy Bench effort won the St. Tammany Parish School Superintendent's Award for Outstanding Character and Citizenship given annually by the school system. And now, therefore, on January 14, 2016, we, Patricia P. Brister, Parish President, E.L. Jean Belisario, Councilman District 9, are proud to recognize Shelley Marengo and her contribution to the implementation of the Buddy Bench in the St. Tammany Parish schools. The Buddy Bench encourages other students to interact with any child who is sitting on the bench who might be new to the school or seems to need someone to talk with. It serves as an easy way for kids to signal others that they need a friend. Thank you all. Shelley?
Congratulations. Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to thank Jean and also for the entire council for giving me this recognition. It wouldn't have been made possible, actually. I came up with the idea, but I needed help. And I went to the Exchange Club of West St. Tammany, and I have a representative here from there, and also North Shore Families Helping Families, because I needed somebody to build the benches for me. And I also went to Trey Folse and got his permission to put all the benches in the schools. And they actually implemented a program that's going to be part of their curriculum every year. So the children will be taught every year what the Buddy Bench is for. And Other than that, the only one I can thank is my son, because I wouldn't have been doing it without him. He has a hard time making friends, and I knew that this was something that could be used in all of the schools. So thank you very much for this. It's beautiful.
Good for you. Thank you. Okay, our next presentation is a certificate of recognition to Mr. John Sandage for his 25 years of service on the Parish Sewer District Number 1. Mr. Loreno, do you see him? Is this him? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, how fitting is this? This is my first council meeting, and I get the privilege to have a certificate of appreciation given to an individual that has worked for this parish for 25 years. 25 years, think about that. And before I read it, I just want to say thank you very much. I'm glad there was no term limits or anything on that, but you did a fantastic job for us, and thank you, sir. Whereas the parish government creates boards and commissions which act as political subdivisions in providing service of the citizens of this parish, and whereas these boards and commissions are composed of residents appointed by the governing authority who are concerned citizens interested in contributing to the effective government and preserving the integrity of St. Tammany Parish. And whereas this governing body desires to recognize those dedicated individuals who have served as members and contributed to the effective operations of parish boards and commission. And whereas one such individual, Mr. John Sandage, who has served on the St. Tammany Parish Sewer District Number 1 Board of Commissioners for over 25 years. Whereas John Sandage established himself and a significant member of the board, was instrumental in decision-making and earned the respect of fellow board members for his commitment and dedication. Now, therefore, be it remembered that St. Tammany Parish hereby recognizes and expresses sincere appreciation to John Sanders for his dedicated service to the citizens of the parish during his tenure as member of the St. Tammany Parish District Number 1 Board of Commissioners. This certificate recognized was unanimously approved by the St. Tammany Parish Council on 14 January 2016. Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Ms. Loreno, I believe Parish President would like to say something?
I would, because Mr. Sandage served in that spot when I held your seat back here, and he did a wonderful job then, and it is often a thankless job. So we need volunteers, as Mr. Sandage, like Mr. Sandage, and the work that he does is invaluable. So thank you for doing this tonight, Mr. Loreno, and thank you, Mr. Sandage.
Thank you. That's an awful nice word said, and I guess the only thing I could really say is that it seems like 2 sins were just committed. A lot of nice things were said about me, and I sat back and enjoyed it. So, thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement. Appreciate
Okay, yeah.
Anything for you. Okay, continuing on with our agenda. It's a consent agenda. It's any items that not pulled from the consent agenda, consent calendar are automatically approved and whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. The items that I have that I know wanting to be pulled are under the ordinances for introduction is number 6. Ordinance calendar number 5512, emergency ordinance to impose a 30-day moratorium within a defined area within unincorporated boundaries of Ward 3, District 5. That's number 6. Number 7, ordinance calendar number 5513, That's to impose a 6-month moratorium within unincorporated boundaries of Ward 3, District 5. Then we have number 14, ordinance calendar number 5520, amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.36 acres from A1A to A2. That's it for the ordinances. Now, under the resolutions, I have number 14, Resolution CS number C4492. Resolution to concur or not concur with the Mandeville annexation and rezoning of 1.151 acres from HC2 to Mandeville B2. Before I go on any further, I'll go down here to Mr. Tanner and ask each one, do they have any other items to be pulled? Mr. Tanner? None? Mr. Sharp?
I do, sir. Item number 10, ordinance calendar 5516, and item number 11, ordinance calendar 5517.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Thompson? Mr. Lorino? Mr. Toledano? Mr. Grovey? Mr. Canulet?
Yes, sir. Number 16 on the resolution, C-4494.
Okay, Mr. Belisario?
Only request is if we pull the off the floor.
Hit the light.
Agenda resolution after this. Sorry. There's an off the floor agenda item that follows on after this resolution C-4494. So when we reach this point, I'd like to be able to also pull that off the floor and take care of it at the same time.
To move it up?
Yes.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Ms. O'Brien? All right. Mr. Stefanczyk? Mr. Bender? Ms. Blanchard? Mr. Smith? All right. Here we go. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Have a motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Ms. O'Brien. Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Toledano?
Come on, get with it.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, first item that was pulled, number 6, ordinance calendar number 5512, emergency ordinance to impose a 30-day moratorium within a defined area within unincorporated boundaries of Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Toledano, you want to introduce?
I do, thank you very much. What is the protocol?
You just need a motion to introduce.
Okay, motion to introduce ordinance number 5512.
And you need a second, Mr. Sharp? Okay. And then you would like to suspend the rules and adopt?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the second motion on that?
Yes, I need a second on
Okay,
that.
may it please, I would move for the adoption of emergency ordinance number 5512.
All right. And so we have a motion by Mr. Toledano, second by, I believe Mr. Thompson was first. Okay. Any discussion? Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Number 7, ordinance calendar number 5513, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium within unincorporated boundaries of Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Toledano, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. This ordinance is similar in form to the one we just passed, and it's ordinance number 5513. I move for the introduction.
Okay, I need a second. Mr. Thompson? Okay. No vote needed on that. All right, the next one is Mr. Sharp, number 10, ordinance calendar number 5516, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 57.4 acres from A2 to A4, West Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp.
Yes, we just have, we have some things that we still need to work on with this ordinance, and I would like to postpone it, please, to the February meeting.
Okay.
Move to postpone.
Move to postpone, second by Mr. Lorino. Before I go any further, he is moving to postpone. I have 3 cards, 3 folks who want to talk on this. Do you still want to talk on it even though he's moving to postpone it? I have Mr. Hilliard, Ms. Ray, and Ms. Menden. You'll wait? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Vote with your lights, please. That's to postpone.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. The next one, Mr. Sharp is asking for, number 11, ordinance calendar number 5517, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 57.4 acres from A4 to A4 and PUD, that's Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp?
Yes, these two items are dealing with the same function, so I'd like to move to postpone this one as well.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone. Do I have a second? Mr. Thompson? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. All right, that's Mr. Sharp's issues. Next one we have to request being pulled is number 14, ordinance calendar number 5520. It's an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.36 acres from A1A to A2, Ward 2, District 6. This was a duplication. Mr. Tanner, you want to explain?
Yes, this somehow or another got put on the agenda, but this was approved in December, so we just need to remove it from the agenda because it's already been adopted.
All right. So there's a
So
motion
moved.
to remove.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Toledano. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, the items under resolution requested to be pulled is item number 14, resolution CS number C4492, resolution to concur or not concur with the Mandeville annexation and rezoning of 1.151 acres from Parish HC2 to Mandeville B2, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Toledano. You're asking to, are you familiar with? Okay, all right. So you're, who wanted to pull this? Okay. Right. Did you want to talk? Okay. Mr. Shane, you can shed light on this?
Yes, sir. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, and I represent the petitioner in the project before the city of Mandeville. This is a bank building in Mandeville on Old 190, just by Blue Harbor Shell gas station. So I think that might be District 5. And
Okay. All right.
and this is a property that the city of Mandeville would like to annex, and it will be converted to a medical use.
Okay.
It's an existing facility.
So, Mr. Toledano, you're,
Well, I misspoke on that. I do move,
Council.
I like the way that sounded.
it's a rookie error.
So you want to concur or not concur?
I move to concur on resolution number C 4492. Thank you very
All
much.
right. I have a motion and a second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights, please. Pleases the court.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Next one we asked to be pulled by Mr. Canulet is Resolution CSC 4494, resolution providing for canvassing the returns of the special election held in Parish Lighting District Number 5. Mr. Canulet.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull it because we have to have an election before we can canvass it, so that's going to be the off-the-floor item next, so this is just follow-up.
Okay, so there's no action you want to take on that?
We can go ahead and move to concur with it.
I'll second.
Second, yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You got who it is? Okay, somebody talk about that? Okay, we have a motion, yeah. Belisario, second. All right. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
And now we have a motion by Mr. Belisario, which apparently is tied to this item. A motion by Mr. Belisario to open the off-the-floor agenda. Second. Okay. Okay. It's a resolution directing the levy and collection of an annual service charge of not to exceed $50 per structure or a lot. Oh, you do?
Yes.
I'm going to give you the short version. All right. Resolution directing the levy and collection of an annual service charge within the boundaries of Parish Road Lighting District 9. So we're voting to open up the off-the-floor agenda. Go over your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, now, Mr. Belisario, you want to discuss?
Yes, I want to make a motion to move forward with the resolution so we can start the levy and collection process for Lighting District 9.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we need to vote? Yeah. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, so that takes care of the consent agenda and the off-the-floor agenda for right now. Now we'll go to the appeals. We have one appeal this evening. The appeal is Mr. Jeffrey Shane on behalf of Grandland Covington LLC appealing the zoning commission denial on December 1, 2015 to rezone 1.3 acres located on the southeast corner of Highway 1085 and Holly Street from A3 Suburban District to NC1 Professional Office District, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Shane, let me just remind everybody or let everybody know the rules. Each side gets 5 minutes and then 2 minutes rebuttal. Okay, then it'll come to the council. The council will discuss it. All right? And we do have cards from folks. Okay, Mr. Shane?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stefanczyk, do you start the clock? Or does Mr. Sharp, you got the clock?
I'm not the parliamentarian. I delivered them to the other end of the...
I didn't know you were going to give up everything.
You have a very short memory.
It's just a clock. All right. Mr. Sharp, you going to do that for us?
Mr. Dean, I'd like to know, is that the same clock that Mr. Stefanczyk's been using, or is this a new clock? I thought that old clock was pretty good,
All right.
too.
There you go. Here we go.
Good evening.
All right.
If you ready, Mr. Dean? I'm
Sure.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Good evening and Happy New Year, and certainly congratulations to the new council persons that are seated and to all in parish government that do a good job for everyone in St. Tammany Parish every day. For the record, my name is Jeff Shane. I'm with the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington. I have the pleasure of representing Grandland Covington LLC, Dr. Brad Grand, who is a dentist and the owner and principal of Grand Family Dentistry. Dr. Grand and his management team are sitting with me this evening on the front row, and I'm happy to say that many of his staff are clad in crimson in the 3 rows behind him. We come to you this evening with regard to an appeal from the Zoning Commission consideration of a request by my client to rezone an existing A3 1.3 acre parcel on Louisiana Highway 1085 to NC Office Professional, which would allow Dr. Grand to construct a 4,700 square foot dentistry office at the corner of Louisiana Highway 1085 and Holly Drive. I think you'd be interested to know that Dr. Grand is not only a resident of Mandeville, but has 2 offices in Mandeville, a 3rd office under construction in Baton Rouge, and has hopes, of course, of establishing an office in District 1 on Highway 1085. I think you'd also be interested to know that this case has a lot of similarities to the zoning case that I handled on his behalf in connection with his office located at the corner of Sharp Road and 3rd Street in the Mandeville area, wherein he sought and obtained the necessary office professional zoning to allow for the establishment of a dental office 10 years ago. And as you know, in some of the information I've provided to you, the residents in that area today have attested through letter to you of their warm relationship with Dr. Grand, his business, and their staff, and their support for his request this evening in hopes of establishing another similar business in another portion of our parish. When this case went to the Zoning Commission, the vote was a deadlock, 5-5, which is no recommendation, but under the rules is certainly considered to be not a positive recommendation. It is treated as a denial, and for that reason an appeal was taken by me so that we could continue to discuss this case before you this evening. I think you would be interested to know that before the case went to the Zoning Commission, as is often the case with zoning matters in District 1, we were asked to, and in fact appeared before, the Association of Associations. And I believe that all of you are aware that that organization has an approximate 15 or so year history. It is a group of residents in the District 1 area that watch land use and change very carefully, traditionally meet monthly, currently meet the second Thursday of each month at Christwood. We were happy to, and in fact attended that meeting, presented our case, had good discussion, and were advised approximately a week later by their president that the AOA had voted to support our proposition, and that is the change from A3 to NC1. I think later this evening, Ms. Slifer, on behalf of AOA, will make some comments in that regard. Getting down to the particulars of the appeal and what we ask you to consider this evening. Dr. Grand has every intent and in fact has tried to document his hope to build a residential style or a residential looking office facility at the corner of Louisiana Highway 1085 and Holly. It will be very similar to the office that he has at Sharp and 3rd. I have provided you photographs this evening and also a rendering of what his office will look like. I think it is important for you to know that there are good and compelling reasons as to why this zoning should be enacted, in large part because if we look at the express purpose.
Mr. Shane, I think we hit 5? Okay. Do you want to save the rest for a rebuttal? Or
no, I think I better keep going and take my 2 minutes now. In particular, though, if you look at the purpose of NC1, you will see that NC1 envisions office professional in developed residential areas that are small in scale and provide minimal impacts. And the very scope and purpose of NC1 is to provide the people in the area the opportunity to avail themselves of office professionals in the area without having to travel to other areas. That's why we think there is good, compelling reason for this zoning change. The area along 1085 has developed incredibly, particularly over the last 10 to 15 years, and is now filled with a well-developed residential area, which is exactly what Office Professional District calls for. The other point I would like to make is that the petitioner feels it is appropriate that we encumber the property with deed restrictions so that in addition to the very restricted NC1 zoning, that there will be covenants that would run with the land that could be enforced by the people themselves if we attempted to violate those covenants. And I've again given you a copy of those covenants. They're 6 in number, but principally what they say is that the property can't be re-subdivided. There can only be one structure on it. It can only be used for offices. There will be no access on Highway 1085. There will be landscaping and berming done in front of the parking area. things that we think are important to make sure that the pictures that we have presented to you and to them, in fact, not only become reality, but can never be changed. And at the end of the day, I suggest to you that your change of zoning to NC1 will allow not only a compatible, not only an appropriate, but a very reasonable use of this piece of land that should mix well with the residential use in that area. That's some of my comments at this point. If I have any time, I'd like to reserve it for rebuttal after the other opposition makes remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. I have several cards. I don't know who, if you all have someone, one particular person you have to speak for you, whatever you want to do, but who wants to? Yes, ma'am. Just tell us your name and your address, please.
My name is Nancy Jackson, and I've lived at 71150 Village du Bois for the past 27 years. I would much rather be here thanking you for supporting our sidewalk project to our wonderful recreation center, our YMCA, but here we are. We, the residents of Highway 1085 from Eichner Boulevard to 1077, oppose this zoning change for many reasons, two of which are, number one, this area has been a recorded residential subdivision for over 50 years. And number two, one must ask the question, is a commercial office building the right use for this residential lot? The answer's obvious, no. Much toil, debate, and treasure went into developing New Directions 2015, which many of us participated in. So why are the opinions of subject matter experts being ignored? For Mr. Shane to suggest that this dentist's office should not be considered or thought of as commercial is grossly misleading. With a 33-car parking lot, patient-employee traffic, lighting and signage in the middle of our subdivision, a dentist office is commercial, no matter how much lipstick you want to put on the pig. NCI-1 states, the purpose of this district is to provide for the location of a small professional office in close proximity to residential development in order to provide small-scale services to the residents of the neighborhood with minimal impact. The key phrase here is close proximity. Inside of a residential neighborhood is not close proximity. Less than a quarter mile east on Highway 1085, where land is already zoned commercial, is close proximity. To quote the Planning and Zoning Commission staff, the staff feels that there is no compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the site is surrounded by residential uses. The staff recommends that the request for an NC1 professional office district designation be denied, end quote. Our zoning commissioner, Pug Lauren, strongly supported us in not advocating this change. He said it was not logical to put a commercial business in our subdivision. In closing, we have shown up in large numbers tonight to respectfully request the council honor the guidelines of New Directions 2025, the opinion of the zoning staff, and the opinions of the residents of this area. As Don Lobb, our community preservationist, once said, developers see what we have here, this beauty, tranquility, and charm of Bootlegger Road, and they want to be a part of it. Many of you know we have fought long and hard to preserve this. 5 major developments have acknowledged this by creating 100-foot no-cut buffers along Highway 1085. But we depend on you to protect this for us. Please do not create a precedent for future commercial activity to creep into and disrupt our peaceful neighborhood where we have chosen to live and to raise our children. Please do not change the face and character of the residential areas along Highway 1085.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name.
Pardon me, just a second. About a minute and a half left?
Yes, about a minute and 5 seconds.
Okay. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Karen Key. My address is 71122 Holly Drive. My husband's grandmother has owned property in Evergreen Acres since 1972, and we built our house in 2006. And I just want to make some comments about the zoning of the office in Mandeville. They didn't mention anything about the zoning is surrounded by family, A4, family moderate density, neighborhood institutional, highway contract, and a PUD. And the nearby businesses include National Tower and Battery, a Majestic Interior Specialties, an electric power substation right across the street from the doctor's office. And according to the zoning commission meeting, which was where we got our first information from, the parking lot would be behind, but it's going to create an eyesore for our neighborhood with all this concrete on for the parking lot. And Evergreen Acres is an older established neighborhood with lot sizes ranging from a half an acre to over 3 acres with the country rural atmosphere. All traffic is local, and this allows our residents the luxury to utilize our streets for power walks, jogging, and strolling with their children. Residents from adjoining Sadie Lakes Estates also use the streets in Evergreen Acres for their walking pleasure as well. Another concern that this zoning change would set a precedence for the 4 remaining undeveloped lots in Evergreen Acres, and that Highway 1085 access be rezoned to some type of professional office land use at another time. Please don't set this precedence. The parish zoning staff, professionals in interpreting the Unified Development Code, have determined that this zoning change request be denied as it does not fit the surrounding residential neighborhood that we pray you agree with the planning professionals. Thank you.
Let's get a time check. Oh, where we at? Okay, we had 5 minutes regular, then 2 minutes rebuttal. She got into a rebuttal or what? Okay. All right. I was just watching. Okay. All right. So they still have a minute and a half. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm missing. Okay. So now anything they say would be in their rebuttal. All right. Okay. Does everybody? And if we need some more, I'm going to ask the council if they'll allow us a few more minutes to continue this. Mr. Shane, do you want to? How much does Mr. Shane still have in his rebuttal? I beg your pardon, please. Thank you. This is a civil thing here. Jesus. Mr. Shane, go ahead. How much does he? None. He took the other. Okay. I would like, if you all wouldn't mind, if we could extend both parties' times by 3 minutes. Is that okay? Any objection? Okay. All right. Let's go 3. Is that okay? Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Dean, and thank you for the courtesy of the additional time. I think this case is a classic example of what happens as things change in the neighborhood. I think the suggestion that new directions and comprehensive rezoning created a template that could never be changed is false and misleading. I remember the time when 1085 was not developed. I remember the time when many of the people that are here this evening, those were not subdivisions, but they were pine trees. I'm delighted that those properties became developed and these nice people had an opportunity to live in this corridor. I believe that this case is a realization and a recognition that as we develop areas, and in this case with good solid residential development, there in fact can be a place for small-scale office professional in close proximity. I believe this is the essence of close proximity. Perhaps I did not name some of the businesses in the neighborhood of Dr. Grant's office at 3rd and Sharp Street. I also did not mention some of the businesses in proximity to this site, namely Camp Bow Wow and Covenant Church and the Oshner 1085 traffic circle just a half mile to the east, and the development of the YMCA, and also other structures abutting and near this property that appear to me to be metal fabricated buildings, the use of which I do not know, but are not buildings that you typically see in residential subdivisions. That is not my way of casting aspersions as to those uses or to those buildings. It is my way of suggesting to you that Dr. Grant's proposed office is not the first time something other than pure residential might be introduced into this area. My client will build and develop and operate pursuant to the code, pursuant to your law, and pursuant to what I think are some fairly generous deed restrictions that he has offered. So I would close by saying that there's no lipstick needed for this case. This case stands on its own. There is compelling reason because this area is now developed, and a developed area is entitled to have the opportunity of small-scale, minimal impact, close proximity office professional. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Mr. Sharp? Mr. Sharp, could you give me an idea of how much rebuttal time the other side has? Just the 3 minutes. Okay. Okay. You got 3 plus 2, so 5. Okay, who wants to speak?
I just have one thing that I wanted to point out. When Mr. Shane referenced having, let's see, in order to provide small-scale services.
You're Ms. Jackson, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
In order to, rookie mistake.
I didn't hear it.
In order to provide small-scale services to the residents of the neighborhood without minimal impact. And he talks about our residents having to travel miles in order to access these services. I would like to point out that a quarter of a mile down the road, where it is zoned for commercial, there is a dental office already present. So if we desire these services, we already don't have to travel far. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? We have Mr. Kevin Bond. Tina, doesn't matter to me.
My name is Debbie LaCicero, and I live at 71241 Village Du Bois in Covington. I live on the corner of 1085 and Village Du Bois. I moved to Covington in 1995 when it was very residential. 1085 used to be, I could sit on my backyard and watch 3 cars in an hour. Now it's a major thoroughfare. Residents have issues with travel. They haven't finished the circle at 1085 and 1077. It took them forever to get the circle done at Oshner. It's kind of been a conglomerate mess. Mr. Shane brought up Bow Wow and Covenant Church. We don't want to go against the church, but I'll tell you, Mr. Dean knows the issues with Bow Wow. We fought that. It was supposed to be a permitted situation. It got changed. The zoning got changed on it. Now Bow Wow is expanding and becoming a bigger business. But it is not in a small residential neighborhood. It's on the opposite side of 1085. So is the Y, so is the rec center. The side of 1085 that Dr. Grant's looking to put his place of business is totally residential. There are no businesses till you get to Oshner. So tonight we listened to introductions, facts, and opinions. I feel like progress should not be hindered, but common sense should prevail in rendering decisions that will affect as few lives as possible. The peace and tranquility which we all hunger for should not be compromised. Convenience is no issue as far as we're concerned. Retaining the beauty of this parish is of utmost importance. If the council would truly work together with the planning board and its staff, our parish could retain its beauty and continue to be a magnet for growth for many years to come. The truth is this land in question is surrounded by residential homes. and the zoning request does not fit the area. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening. Mr.
Mr.
Dean,
Smith.
Chairman Dean,
How are you?
and members of the council. I've spoke before this committee on numerous occasions, but it's the council,
Just
excuse
for
me.
the record, Bill, could you say your address?
My name is Bill Smith. I live at 71205 Whiskey Oaks Lane, which is right off of 1085 near 1077. This area is, as has been said numerous times, is all residential. There are a couple of intrusions in the residential that were of no fault of the residents for sure. The property from 3 blocks away all the way to Highway 21 has already been rezoned for a large part of commercial. It's all empty land. It's, you know, within walking distance, easy for anybody in this area to go to those areas. And there's just no compelling reason, as the staff pointed out, that should be the end all of this conversation. You know, your staff that is hired by the parish to make recommendations based on the comprehensive rezoning and based on the growth of the parish recommends that it not be approved, that it's not necessary. I don't know what else to say. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, what's the time? 1 minute, 11 seconds.
Thank you. My name is Mark Gold. I live at 15040 Evergreen Loop, about a block away from where this proposed change is supposed to take place. And all I wanted to say was that, to me, the onus for this appeal should be on the appellant to to show compelling reasons for this change. In order to make a change to go against the wishes of the community and against the advice of experts, there really needs to be a compelling reason. And I personally haven't heard a compelling reason, right? Again, you know, if the purpose of this sort of development is to create, what was it, businesses in close proximity. It's not close proximity, it's within the subdivision. And secondly, to provide small-scale services to the residents. The residents not wanting the service because it's already available, all right? I appreciate the time to speak. I know you have a really difficult job, but obviously this is something that's very important to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, is that it, Mr. Sharp? Okay, we're going to bring it to the council. Anyone? Okay, Maureen had hers on. All right, Ms. O'Brien, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Dean. We received some pictures of some metal buildings, and I'd like to find out what is the location of these metal buildings. If I'm looking at this aerial photograph correctly, is it right on Holly Drive, right behind the proposed dentist's office? Could somebody come to the microphone? Mr. Shane or
Mr. Shane.
someone from the other side come to the mic. Mr. Shane, I'm presuming you provided these pictures?
I did.
Okay. Can you tell me the location? Is this correct?
It's immediately to the rear. There's a couple of photographs that I provided, but you're looking at this structure in particular. And
So
I'll-
both of these metal buildings are
Abut.
here, these two buildings
That
on the
is-
aerial?
that is
I see a
correct.
lot of cars here. What is the purpose of these metal buildings that are being utilized here, right behind this piece of property?
I know when that photograph was taken, there were that was in the during the day, and there were 7 vehicles that are parked. I think it's 7 in the eight vehicles that are in the neighborhood of a 3-bay metal building to the rear. But I do not know how the building is used or what its purpose is, nor do I know the purpose of the other warehouse-type structure that I would say is approximately 1,000 to 1,200 square feet.
So there's no commercial signage at this area?
There is no signage whatsoever, no ma'am. My only suggestion is that, or my belief is that anyone that suggests that there are not some unusual structures and some suggestion of other types of land use in that area mistaken, and I think it supports the compelling reason why there can be a place for something such as office professional.
Okay.
And Sydney, can you confirm that this indeed is zoned residential right here where these metal buildings are located? Mr. Font, no,
Okay,
excuse me.
hang on just a second, please. Why don't we, so that we will continue some order in this meeting, if you wouldn't mind, instead of just, could we just go through the chair and then we?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I
Rookie
just want to make
mistake.
sure, because I see them chomping at the bits to come up here, and I want some kind of order. So who wants to speak to her question? Come up and just tell us who you are. And
She owns one of the buildings.
Hi, I'm Tina Marshan, 15051 Pine Street. We have a small building, but we live on 3 acres of property.
So do you, are you?
It's my
You are the
husband.
owner of the three bay
No.
building?
No. I'm not directly behind it.
Okay.
We are.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Could you tell who you are, please?
My name is Stacy Sears. On December 3rd, we bought the home directly behind the proposed dental clinic. So we have a green space right now behind our house. This is my next-door neighbor on the corner of Bootlegger and Shady Lake. And those buildings are our storage buildings behind our homes.
Okay.
Those belong, their workshop and a gazebo and my storage shed are directly behind this.
Okay.
So
There is no commercial.
there's,
Okay. All right, thank you.
So
That was the question.
we have
Thank you
a
all.
fence that would be dividing us from concrete.
Okay, thank you.
So we're definitely against this.
All right, I'm sorry. Ms. O'Brien? Maureen, were you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Belisario?
Okay, Maureen asked one of the questions that I was going to ask. The other one is for Sydney. When I look at this building is constructed like a residential home. And in my area and other areas in this parish, there are people operating home occupation professional type services. And my question to him is the comparability of some of those type of activities to the dentist's office, because we all know that the dentist's offices, there's not like a Walmart or something like that, which has a lot of traffic. Are there any of those home professional services that have any comparison to this for car traffic?
It would depend on the size of the dental's office. Home occupations, home offices have a extremely limited number of trips per day allowed by customers. It's generally utilized by the owner of the business, perhaps a staff person, an occasional customer. To my recollection, it would not include any kind of medical office, dental office type functions.
The other thing I have for everybody is I'm looking at this project in my subdivision, Crossgate subdivision, which is an 850-some home subdivision off of Gauze Boulevard, right to the east of the Whitney Bank at the corner of East Gauze and Crossgates Boulevard is a dentist's office right on the corner. When you turn on the Crossgates Boulevard, the second building is a dentist's office. The next house is a residence. That's been there for many, many years. And the level of traffic, quite truthfully, is de minimis. You don't even know it. It fits in well with the homes. It looks like a home. And so everybody has a pretty good feel with that. So I'm not seeing much difference because you're looking NC1. It's the least restrictive commercial operations you can have. Thank you.
May I say something?
Okay, no, with this, we brought it up here. That's the reason that we gave the 5 minutes and then the time to rebuttal. All right. Mr. Canulet?
Yeah, Sydney, I have a couple questions for you, actually. The 100-foot no-cut buffer off 1085, that stays in place?
The 100-foot buffers that I can recall were with individual subdivisions. This subdivision, I don't believe, would be one of those. Those were the subdivisions that were approved in 2004, 2005, such as
Maison de Lac.
Maison de Lac, some of those other subdivisions, where we had a large number of lots approved within a very short period of time.
So, the other, don't hang up, we're still here. So, this is A3 now.
Yes.
If they wanted to subdivide this, is it safe to say they could get 3 houses on this
A3 would
lot?
require half-acre lots with a frontage, if I remember right, 100 feet. So it would depend on combination frontage and acreage.
So if this goes away, and the guy says, okay, I want to subdivide and put 2 homes, can he clear cut all the way to 1085?
Yes.
Don't need nothing, just come in, get his permit, clear cut.
He doesn't need a permit to clear
Don't
to
even need a
cut.
permit. Okay. So the way this is set up right now, there will be no entry. Oh, thank you, Sidney. Jeff, the way this is set up right now, will there be entry from 1085?
No, sir. The proposed deed restriction, which would be enforceable by the residents of Evergreen, would not allow any access off of Highway 1085.
So 1085 would stay clear, just like I'm looking at
Yes,
right now?
and it would be landscaped as per the site plan and the rendering that you've seen. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On appeals, I think a lot of people know that I like to ask questions, so please bear with me. It's the way that I get educated when the property, as is the case with most of us sitting up here, is not in our particular council district. So I've studied this ahead of time, and I have a few questions. First, to the, I think it was 2 ladies that own the property that they said these buildings are on. Okay, could you all come to the microphone? Mr. Chairman, can I have them come to the microphone?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Let me just ask, have you seen this photograph? Have you all seen?
No, sir, we have not.
Okay. Can we get, okay. All right. Here. Okay. Let's let them look at that.
This is
Yeah.
Holly. Okay, and where's Bootlegger?
Where's Shady Lake?
Excuse me. That's not y'all's building.
No, I was going to say, I'm Ms. Crawford's husband, and I own part of the property on the corner.
Yes, sir.
The buildings that we have, and Ms. Sears has, are just little storage buildings.
Step up to the mic.
They're little storage buildings. They do have metal roofs, but they're not significant, and I don't.
Okay.
They don't, the ones you have are like a lot larger.
Okay, and sir, the reason I'm asking the question.
That's fine.
Is so that I can understand the correct answer to it, okay? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that without seeing the photographs, one of you all may have said, we own those buildings, okay?
Well-
Yeah, those are our buildings, okay? So that's fine. No harm. I just want to find out, okay, you would know whether these 2 buildings.
That was mine.
Okay, this one's your building,
That was mine.
and this one's your building. And can I see that placard there? Thank you.
Can we get back to the thing?
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have to bear with me just a second, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that the ladies who were up here before live on the west side of Holly, not on the east side of Holly. And so I think there was some confusion. They're up against Shady Lake, so they're across the street from the actual subdivision.
Okay, and thank you all, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm sorry, both of you, please, ma'am, can you come up to the microphone? And I'm sorry to block Ms. Blanchard and...
I'm not good at looking at maps, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I live
okay.
down Holly. I live on a corner of Holly and Pine with 3 acres.
Okay, so...
Where your finger is, go down.
Yeah, I'm off at 1085, yes, sir.
Okay.
So who owns that mill?
I'm on Holly Drive.
That's fine. What I've determined is, it's not their buildings, these two are your buildings.
One of them is mine.
Okay, one of them is yours and one of them is yours.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great. Thank you very much. Okay, so, but my question though, okay, and y'all can go ahead, ma'am. I guess the first question, and thank you very much. I guess the first question that I have is, and Mr. Chairman, I'd ask Mr. Shane if he would come up, please. Mr. Shane, can you and/or someone representing the neighborhood, these two buildings here, or in the neighborhood?
Yes, sir. The picture in your right hand, which is to the left as I'm looking at you, that is a structure that is immediately abutting my south property line. I would say that building is within 50 feet, 40 feet of my property line. The photograph in your...
As we look at this, it is behind the rectangular X.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, the rectangular, black rectangle.
And I think in my layman's eyes, if you look at that picture, I would suggest to you that structure's rooftop appears to me to be as big, if not bigger, than the residence in front of it.
I understand.
That's just an opinion.
And I will assume that the residents agree that there are two metal commercial type buildings or industrial type buildings, excuse me one second, that are located behind this lot that we're looking at tonight. Am I accurate with that? Do you all agree with that? It doesn't matter if it's irrelevant. It's relevant to me. We have a vacant lot. Everybody in this room, is this group, y'all are here for this too?
They're supporting it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we have against and for. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying, I understand. I'm trying to figure out, which teams we got here. Okay. But look, there's no right answer to this. My question is just simple. We have the vacant lot that is before us tonight. We have two structures behind it that are not homes. Does everybody agree that those two structures behind this lot are not homes? No, they're workshops. They're workshops. Very good. Thank you. I understand. Mr. Chairman, let me be clear to everybody. I am not making any disparaging remark by my questions, okay, as to does someone need a workshop, a garage, a shed to go with any home, whether it's a half an acre, 1 acre, 3 acres. I'm not making any disparaging comment here, okay? The fact of the matter is, what I see here is what I see in every district in this parish. And it is development that has transformed itself as we go further and further from the middle 1950s to the 1970s to the 2000s to the 2015s. We have this type of structure, these structures, these pure metal building structures, all over our districts. from back when these were allowed to be built. These would not get approved if it got appealed before us from a planning standpoint. These would no longer get approved. Sidney, am I correct on that?
The metal buildings meeting the building code would be issued a building permit if they meet all standards of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, and that would be to be the purpose of as a shed or a garage or whatever.
It must be smaller than the structure, than residential structure. It must be located on a lot with the residential structure. If it meets all of those zoning standards, the material is not an issue.
But I understand. But right now, this could not be built on any highway, street as the structure for that lot. You're telling me, Sidney, that this is some shed structure that would be approved?
If it meets the standards of the building code, it could be a residence.
Sidney, with all due respect, this can't be a residence, okay? I'm just going to take it that it can't be a residence, because we're not asking for a residence made out of this, but I don't know how the rest of my colleagues feel. I wouldn't vote for this to be a residence in any subdivision. Okay, thank you. Okay. I guess my question is, Mr. Belisario mentioned some very, very nice structures in his neighborhood. I'm familiar with those structures. We've got letters from these other subdivision owners on behalf of these dentists who said what you're saying, which is we were very concerned before it got approved. But now we're fine. We have, I noticed Ms. Slifer's here tonight. I read where at the time, or maybe still is, a member of the Association of Associations, which is a well-thought-of organization, and they signed off on this. I'm looking at a really beautiful facility with parking coming in from a side street. Now, I'm just telling you how I look at this. This is just how I look at it, and it's this. If I look at these two structures, nothing against them, in my mind, the question becomes, who wants to build a home in front of those two structures on this piece of property? And, okay, what would I rather see if I can see through this to these structures? This type of rendition with parking on the side and a nice berm and so forth, or vacant land with older style metal buildings, nothing against them. Mr. Chairman, that limits my questions. I'm asking more questions because I know this is in your council district, and as chairman, you're more limited, but do you have any comments on this?
I do. Thank you, Jerry. This is, I have a history out there going back 12 years of the proposed zoning changes, multiple appeals before this body. Just as late as probably a couple of years ago, there was a developer at the 1077, 1085 corner, the southeast corner, who wanted to change that to that zone to HC3, which would have allowed a 200,000 square foot building. He wanted to put a Rouse's there. So I had this side over here who wanted, heck no, stay away from that. Over here we had another side that said, look, we need a grocery store, please change the zoning. So we didn't change the zoning. We did not want to go to HC3. So I guess the point that I'm making is that I have a real long history of attempting the best that I could to protect that area. I used to have the entire area, and then back in 2010, after the census, we redistricted, and so Mr. Thompson has the northern side of it, and then the other western and northwestern side of 1077. My point is that we have, I've really been worried about this, because I think but it just kind of kept coming back to me, it's just a dentist office. It's a dentist, I mean, how far have we gone if we can't even allow, let's pick our battles and let's fight the Walmarts, and I probably shouldn't say that, but let's fight the big stores. Let's fight the things. If this is approved, then what you have done is you've set a precedent for NC1 with deed restrictions. So NC1 could allow a doctor's office. It's all professional office buildings. And Mr. Shane is putting a deed restriction, several deed restrictions. So if I were to come along there, and again, we're looking 12 or 15 years back, and nothing pretty much has changed other than those 3 or 4 structures that you've talked about. And also Katrina, Ocean Boulevard, 2 roundabouts, a YMCA. We're getting ready to extend St. Francis to Rousseau. I mean, there are things that are out there, but for the most part, it's the same highway that was several years ago. It is a highway. So we do attempt to try to kind of bridge that between, is this an overreaction? And I understand that if you really had to pick, are you that offended by the dentist office? Probably not. I mean, I have a dentist. I go to dentist Dr. Burvant in Covington. You could throw rocks at several houses just from his place. It's on Tyler Street. He has 2 dentists in there. I would say his building is probably 2,300 square feet. I may be way off. But and I never am in there with more than 3 people in the waiting room. And and I promise you, because I kept thinking, is this a fight that I don't need to get into? And I just kept thinking, it is a dentist office. I do believe that it is a pretty benign use. I think it's a good use. I think it meets what they suggest, that neighborhood commercial, and again, it's NC1. I was by there yesterday. There's a sign up there that says no big boxes. Who the hell said something about a big box out there? That is just hysteria, in my opinion. A big box is 200,000 square feet. A big box is Walmart, Target, those kind of big stores. We're talking, if you were limited to, there's no statements right now. You're limited to 5,000 square feet with deed restrictions. I think it's 4,700 square feet. So I'm going to end my comment, and does anyone have a motion?
Wait a minute.
You have Mr.
O'Donnell's light.
Yeah,
on.
I have some discussion, Mr. Dean, and
sure.
And first, in all due respect to my colleague down there who I couldn't see what the heck he was holding up, can I just get a clarification from someone? The metal building with the single bay, is that this young lady here? Am I correct? And you're directly behind the building, correct? The proposed building site? No. Okay. Does anybody in this audience
wants to come speak, because we got a recording this thing, and if you're not talking on the microphone, and let me remind all the council, we have brought it back to the council. Okay,
right.
So let's.
And my question is simple. Does anybody in the audience own the building behind the proposed rezoning with a single bay? I cannot get it.
I own that.
You own that building?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Mr. Dean, let me say this to you. This is the first time that I have been on this side of this fence, and I realize that I'm not getting enough pay to be on this side versus being out there. And I mean that in a respectful way. The ladies who came forth here made some very good arguments. And the difficult task that I think we find ourselves in tonight is to try to balance those arguments against the arguments proposed by Mr. Shane. And in all due respect to those people, I look at this in a way that I believe is selfish to your neighborhood, but perhaps in disagreement to what you say tonight. And that is this. I think a toned down NC1 with all these restrictions can actually be an attractive gateway to this neighborhood. I have seen this exact development, and I know there's people that would disagree with that, but I can tell you I've seen these exact developments, some in this parish, some in other states. North Park is a pretty good example of that. I heard Mr. Bender make mention of one. I think that this facility, be it a dentist's office, and it's very restricted, we all know what is allowable in the NC1, I think can be compatible. This was obviously something that Mr. Fontenot's commission was torn between. It was very close. His recommendation was no compelling reason. That's not an overwhelming against. I think this is a difficult question. I respect what these people have said and the fear of creeping commercialism. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. But in this particular case, I do not see that. I see this as a perfect complement to the neighborhood. I have went and looked at Dr. Grand's building on Sharp Road. I'm familiar with it. It is very tasteful. It makes for a nice transition into the Sharp Road neighborhood, which was a very nice neighborhood. When I drove past this building, so that everybody is clear on it, if my memory serves me right, because I went out and looked at the neighborhood, there was a public vehicle in this garage being worked on. Now, maybe...
That is not correct, sir.
What's that?
That is not correct.
Well, let me say this to you. Then we obviously have two different buildings in mind.
Exactly, yes.
Because I saw a public building being worked on in a garage that looked exactly like this. But irrespective of that, I think that this is something that is compatible and not a bad marriage to that neighborhood, and quite frankly, will be an attractive addition at the end of the day, particularly with the restrictions that, had Mr. Shane not suggested them, I would have suggested most of them anyway. So as difficult as it is, I do not think that anybody in this neighborhood at the end of the day will find this to be an inappropriate use.
Excuse me, sir.
Thank
You
you.
mentioned about a public vehicle. My husband does drive a public vehicle, so if he was over there, maybe he was vacuuming it out.
Perhaps so, then.
My husband is very particular where he puts his items. In order to keep up 3 acres, you need tractors. My boys ride their four-wheelers.
Sure.
We have lawn equipment, trailer. That is our building to house those things, so it's not all over the property and looking like Sanford and Sons.
Sure, and you could very well be correct in it. He might have been.
So it is very neat,
maintaining
very
his own building.
maintained, and it looks very well on our property.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not.
Otherwise, we would have this all over, and then
Yeah.
we would have neighbors that would not be happy that we
I
would have
understand.
that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, go
Call
ahead.
for the question.
Okay, the question's been called.
There was no motion.
Mr. Stefanczyk had his light on.
There was no motion.
Riker, would you turn your light?
Thank you.
Mr.
I'll
Stefanczyk.
make it a very short statement. I heard comments out here, and I hear them all the time, about New Directions 2025, and I know our staff still refers back to that sometimes. New Directions 2025 was established in the late 1990s, and I started it, so I understand what it was, and I followed it all the way through, and I was basically the chairman of the police jury at the time that started. We looked at classifications for neighborhoods like this, and we put things into categories that says, this ought to be residential, this ought to be industrial, this ought to be commercial, this ought to be those kind of things. What we found out as we went along in the 2000s was there were some problems with that. There needs to be things in residences, in residential areas, such as daycare centers, dentist offices, doctor's offices, those kind of things that are in close proximity. So we did a comprehensive rezoning of this parish, but before we did it, we went back and changed all of our zoning classifications. Before 2008, we never had such a thing as NC1, NC2, NC5. It was either HC1, HC2, or HC3. And nobody wanted HC1, HC2, and HC3 sitting in the middle of a neighborhood. And when the council realized that, that's when we started changing all the classifications. And that's how we came up with where we are today. These things are set so that they fit into this kind of an arena. I'm not going to sit here and argue about what this pictures look like and everything else. To me, it's the kind of a thing that we anticipated when we did the 2008, when we changed our zoning classifications. This is the kind of thing we anticipated being going into neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, the question's been called. Mr. Bender?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion, and I will add to that just a couple of things. Number one, someone made a comment that they can remember when there was nothing out here, and that's not uncommon. And then there were houses, and that's growth in St. Tammany Parish. With that growth comes needs. It does. And what I see here, Mr. Chairman, is an organization, a gentleman who has proven in his prior developments to be a good neighbor. That's what these documents tell me. Therefore, I will bring to the floor and make a motion to override the zoning denial.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bender to override the zoning denial, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Okay, question's been called, so let's vote with the lights. This is to override the zoning. I hit yes. I did. Look. Oh, it's Tanner. Oh, yes, Tanner. Because Mr. Tanner was in this chair and I'm down there, the names are switched.
Motion passes with 11 yeas, 2 nays, 1 abstention, no one absent.
Okay, I need a motion. Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Canulet. That's to introduce. Okay. All right. Thank you. Continuing on with the ordinances for adoption. Continuing on ordinances for adoption. Is everybody ready? Okay, ordinance calendar number. Okay, ordinance calendar number 5476, ordinances amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 6.3 acres from A3 to NC3 District 5. Mr. Toledano.
Mr. Chairman, unless he knows what we're going to do, this has to wait a month.
I think that's what he's asking, is to, you're going to, okay, Mr. Toledano? Hit your light? To postpone? Yeah. Okay, I have a motion to postpone. I got second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote with your lights. Okay. You gonna read them?
Mr. Kirby. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay. Second ordinance, calendar number 5493, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium within a portion of voting precinct 914, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith.
Move to adopt.
A motion to adopt by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 3, ordinance calendar number 5494, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on the opening of new streets in Angelic Estates, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Toledano.
Chairman, thank you very much. This is a piece of property in the vicinity of Harrison Avenue and what we call this Dog Pound Road on Fuchsia Street. It has been evaluated preliminarily as an area with a serious drainage problem. That drainage problem extends almost all the way over to North Street. We have gone out, and I've gone out personally to look at this property. I think any further development before a complete drainage evaluation would be done on that property would possibly be injurious to the present residents, and for that reason, I would urge the adoption.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Stefancic. Any discussion? Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 4, ordinance calendar number 5495 AA, ordinance to extend for 6 months moratorium on property abutting the Louisiana Highway 21 planned corridor from Brewster Road north to Azalea Drive, Ward 1, District 1. I'd like for somebody to. Moved by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any discussion? Okay, vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 5, ordinance calendar number 5496, ordinance to amend the 2015 operating budget amendment number 12. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 6, ordinance calendar number 5497, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.193 acres from A2, NC4, and RO to HC2 and RO, Ward 3, District 3. Mr. Thompson. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Sharp. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 7, ordinance calendar number 5498, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 4.48 acres from A1 and RO to A1A, A2, and RO, which is rural overlay, Ward 2, District 2. Mr. Sharp. Have a motion by Mr. Sharp and seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 8, ordinance calendar number 5499, ordinance to authorize the parish president to incorporate Robin Road, Sparrow Road, Quail Lane, Cardinal Cove, Wren Way, how much is it Wren Way? Martin Way, Hummingbird Lane, and Raven Road into the parish road maintenance system. Just kind of makes you feel good saying all that, doesn't it? Ward 4, District 7. Mr. Groby.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Groby. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Lorino? Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 9, ordinance calendar number 5500, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .48 acres from A1A to A1A and rural overlay, Ward 7, District 7. Mr. Groby.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Groby. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay, 10th item, ordinance calendar number 5501, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1 acre from A1 Rural Overlay and Mobile Home MHO to A2 Rural Overlay and MHO, Ward 2, District 3. Mr. Thompson. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Sharp. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote by your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, 11th item, ordinance calendar number 5502, ordinance establishing a no parking zone on Windsor Court, Ward 9, District 11.
Move to postpone 1 month.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Stefancic to postpone this for 1 month, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, number 12, ordinance calendar number 5503, ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Sections 2-091 and Section 2-092 of the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances for the reorganization of parish departments.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, number 13, an ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory to include Landry Kate Drive and Azalea Lane lateral, wards 3 and 6, districts 2 and 11. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 5506, ordinance to authorize the parish president to declare 34.918 acres as surplus property and to authorize the private sale and disposal of said property described herein, Ward 4, District 7.
So moved.
Mr. Groby made a motion, second by who? Mr. Belisario. I do have a card. Is it Mr.?
I have a question too.
Okay. Mr. Ott, Brad Ott?
And
just for the record, Brad Ott and your address?
my name, yeah, and address. And this is for the council.
Okay, your address is 812 Penniston?
812 Penniston Street, New Orleans, Louisiana.
All right. Welcome to the North Shore.
Yeah, thank you to the council for allowing me to speak. I'm here to oppose enactment of ordinance calendar 5506 and its seemingly innocuous description. The proposed declaration as surplus property, quote, no longer needed for public purpose to authorize its private sale will have profound implications for the mental health of not only the people in St. Tammany Parish, but for everyone in southeast Louisiana. Because it needs to be noted, this is the former Southeast Louisiana Hospital property. And I'm saddened that it wasn't advertised as such. I learned about it through the media, and I tried to get up here. I'm sorry I didn't register my issues before. But in the brief time that I have, foremost, the proposal to declare this property originally founded and known as Southeast Louisiana Hospital needs to also adhere to revised statute Title 40, Section 2115.11 et secu, and I'm going to read it. It's subpart B, review and approval of hospital acquisitions. The health of our people of our state is the most important public concern. The state has an interest in assuring the continued existence of accessible, affordable health care facilities that are responsive to the needs of communities in which they exist. The state also has a responsibility to protect the public interest in nonprofit hospitals by making certain that the charitable assets of those hospitals are managed prudently. Therefore, no non-for-profit hospital shall be acquired by any person unless until the acquisition is reviewed and approved by the Attorney General. The said property in question, I believe, falls under this law's full provisions. Another project of similar import was found to be under its provisions.
Mr. Ott, you
I'm
need
going to wrap up.
please.
I will wrap up.
But in doing so, tell us your objection to this.
My objection is that it needs to be reviewed further. North Lake hasn't been necessarily a great steward. I mean, I'm a veteran of having tried to save the hospital.
All right.
I worked for several months on that, as did the people of St. Tammany and people in New Orleans everywhere, because when they closed the New Orleans Adolescent Hospital, patients, including friends of mine, ended up at Southeast.
Okay.
And so I just want the extra oversight that RS 40, Title 40, 2115.11, there's a lot that's desirable about the proposal, but I don't have time to really go into the platitudes of it. There is some good stuff about it, but I want the oversight. And the West Jeff project that was recently approved by the Parish Council down in Jefferson went under that same thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a motion. And,
Is the administration going to respond to?
I will if you ask me, Mr. Chairman.
not necessarily. Does Mr. Toledano?
I have.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make a statement.
Go ahead.
First of all, you know, this wasn't going to be part of my statement, but the fact that, you know, that we purchased this building and continued for it to be a mental health facility, saved these beds and what have you that would have not been available in St. Tammany Parish because the state closed that facility. So, I mean, we stepped in, Ms. Brister and her staff and what have we stepped in, we bought that property and were able to lease it to somebody until we got ownership of the property and now we sold it to them. The only thing I want to say is, you know, I want to make sure, and I know the answer to this question, but I know that this facility we're selling has been appraised and we're selling it for the appraised value. We're not doing it, even though it says surplus property, we're certainly not selling it for $1.
Yes, I can answer that, Mr. Chairman. It's certainly by our statutes and law, it is that is we're selling for $6,740,000, which was the appraised value. To try to reassure Mr. Ott, there are restrictions. There is zoning in place that has to stay a medical facility, and that's what this company does. They are regulated by DHH, as every other facility that, as you know, in the business, that does any type of medical services. So there is oversight, there are restrictions. We went by the law, we had it appraised, we're selling it for that, and we had it rezoned so it would stay a medical facility. So we have done everything. And our major project this year is to make that entire area a behavioral health campus. That's our primary focus on that property this year, and that's what we will do. So we have put things in place to protect that. Thank you.
Okay, and your administration should be congratulated for it too, please. Okay, no further discussion. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, item number 15, ordinance calendar number 5507, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .98 acres from A2 to A2 and mobile home overlay, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp? Okay, you're wanting to adopt pending pending the appeal period, correct? Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Sharp. Who's the second? Who's Mr. Thompson? Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, that's it for the items for adoption. Now we're going to appointments. First appointment we have a list of 6 appointments. Resolution to appoint or reappoint 5 members to the Board of Commissioners for Subdrainage District Number 2 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5, Meadowbrook Subdivision. Mr. Toledano.
Mr. Dean, thank you very much. Gentlemen and ladies, the appointments will stay the same. I'll call them off for the record, with the exception of one gentleman who has resigned, and we offer somebody in substitute. Otto Mirror, Chairman, Steve Cohan, Eugene Pat Phillips, David Bates, and the new member we suggest is Wayne Durr, who will take the place of Mr. John Lavaway. I move that these members be appointed to the Subdrainage District Number 2.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Mr. Tanner did the second. Are there any other nominations? Okay. So we'll close the floor. Any discussion? Vote your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Continuing with the Toledano show, we have resolution to reappoint 5 members to, could happen to a better person.
This is giving me good practice here this evening, and I appreciate that.
Just so long as it doesn't go to your head.
Yeah.
Board of Commissioners for Subdrainage District, wait, I got to read it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Subdrainage District Number 3 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5, that's North Park Subdivision. Mr. Toledano.
Okay. All right. Mr. Tanner has taught me the benefit of abbreviation, so I'm going to move for the appointment of the members of Sub-District Drainage District Number 3, with the exception of substituting Mr. Wayne Kemp for James Farley.
All right. Okay, we got a second by Mr. Tanner, motion by Mr. Toledano. All right, since it's in his district, there are no other nominees. Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Lorino? Mr. Stefanczyk? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right. Let's see which one we're on. Number 3, a resolution to reappoint 5 members of the Board of Commissioners for Subdrainage District 4 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. That's Fountain Subdivision. Mr. Toledano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since I'm on a roll using Mr. Thompson's style, I'm going to move to reappoint those members that have served previously on Sub-District Drainage District Number 4, the exception being that Ms. Canavra, whose name I probably have just slaughtered, but we have it correctly spelled, has resigned. And so that position will be vacant, and we hope to offer someone up in the near future, but have not found a volunteer as of yet. So 4 of the members would be reappointed.
Okay. Second by Mr. Lorino. And you'll appoint the other one next month? Or something?
That's correct. We're searching.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, Mr. Bender, number 5.
Yes, sir. Oh, you want to read it, Mr. Chairman, number 5?
I'm sorry. Resolution to reappoint Sharon Lodrucker and Connie. I did? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get rid of Mr. Toledano. Okay, number 4. Resolution to reappoint 5 members to the Board of Commissioners for Subdrainage District Number 5 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. That's Emerald Oak Subdivision. Mr. Toledano.
Thank you.
Sure.
Not surprisingly, Mr. Chairman. Not surprisingly, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to reappoint all those members that have previously served on that district. All of them are willing and will continue to serve.
Sounds good. Second. Got a second by Mr. Lorino. Call roll, please. Call roll. You know, I said that when I was in City Council. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
And now, number 5, Mr. Bender, resolution to reappoint Connie Bourne, term expires 12/31, to the Board of Commissioners for Parish Tourist and Convention Commission.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For all council members' information, Ms. Bourne was nominated by me in the past. I've continually, from time to time, followed up on her performance. I've got nothing but great reviews. I forwarded that information on to council members, and Mr. Smith, who serves also on the Tourist Commission with Ms. Bourne, agrees with my recommendation, and therefore I'll make a motion to reappoint Ms. Connie Bourne to the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Parish Tourist and Convention Commission. Thank you.
And with that, I would second it, Mr. Chairman. Having served on the Tourist Commission for the last year and going on 2 years now, I can concur with that level of service from Ms. Bourne as the chair, vice chair of that committee.
I'm going to, since she was my appointment, I'm going to hold up on Ms. Drucker, if you all don't mind, to possibly next month.
Sure. Okay.
So I have a motion and a second for Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Okay. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, number 6, resolution to appoint one member to replace Ms. Teresa Risley, who resigned, to the Board of Directors of Fire Protection District Number 1.
Mr. Dean, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
make a motion to postpone the reappointment until next month.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion to postpone till next month by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Smith. I believe everybody got resumes by the dozens. Okay, all right, so vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, number 7, resolution to appoint Jay Kahn to replace John Garner on the Board of Directors for Parish Sewerage District Number 1. Mr. Lorino. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
All right, Mr. Lorino. Motion by Mr. Lorino, second by Mr. Toledano. Any discussion? Vote with your lights.
Mr. Belisario? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, that's it for the appointments. We have discussion and other matters. Motion to refer to Zoning Commission for recommendation, the proposed rezoning of 77.36 acres from CB1 to A4 and PUD, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp, do you want to talk to Mr. Carlo? You go make a motion and second by Mr. Thompson. Carlo, how you doing?
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm here to, and I think most of the members know probably why I'm here. The numbers they're not Powerball numbers, so I just want to begin with that. But it is a number that is very high. The number I'm talking about is that we're getting ready to waive the fees on $1,725. Now, I believe that it is something, hopefully, that you're doing for the first time this year and hopefully for the last time this year. So I'm asking again that the council no longer waive the fees for the subdivision matters that go before the zoning commission. So please, again, requesting that you please consider not waiving fees in the future. Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, do you want to mention anything about it? Jeff, did you want to speak? Please. No, I was looking for somebody to do it.
With all due respect to Mr. Hernandez, whose point he makes on a regular basis and is certainly his privilege and opinion, I hope the council knows, but if not, this matter is being referred to the Zoning Commission to correct a mapping error as it relates to the zoning of the Terra Maria development. There is indisputable evidence that the underlying zoning in PUD was in fact placed on this project. Most of the project has been built pursuant to that underlying zone and PUD, and it was simply, as I appreciate it, Mrs. Fontenot, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess we use the word mismapped or miscoded on the map. So it's my appreciation that's being done for that reason alone. My law partner, Paul Marone, is handling the matter. He couldn't be here tonight because he's at another meeting.
All right. That it? Anybody else? Any more business come before the board? If not, that's it.
We vote on that? Mr. Chairman, we didn't vote on that.
Okay. It's a rookie mistake, like. It is a bad rookie mistake. Okay, do I have a motion and a second?
Yes.
We do have that? All right, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Now can I do it?